So we'll start with the concept of motion, the pop quiz 5. In the first question, the structure question, figure 1.1, figure 1.2 shows a vertical speed time graph for a parachutist who jumps from a stationary hot air balloon. The speed time graph is shown and the positions are there A and B. The parachutist jump from the balloon at time 0 and he reaches the ground at point B. The point A indicates when the parachute opens. The parachute open. On figure 1.2, label the points on the graph where the acceleration is 0. So where the acceleration is 0, which point or a position the acceleration is 0. So you can mention here, because the term acceleration is 0 or 0 acceleration means that there is no change in the speed. So we can mention here 0.1, or you can also mention 0.1 here. These 2 points can be labeled as 0 acceleration. Any one place you can mark this point where the acceleration is 0. Where at 0.2, the acceleration is negative. What is the meaning of acceleration negative or a negative acceleration? It means the object slow down. So what is 0.2 where the acceleration is negative? So we can mention here 0.2. And 0.3 where the acceleration is decreasing. So 0.3 you will mark here. So 0.1 can be at this point, like before A, or 0.1 can be before B as well. 0.2 is representing a negative acceleration, which we also call deceleration. And 0.3, which is representing a decreasing acceleration, means the slope of a speed time graph should decrease. That's why on our graph, we'll have 0.3 just the moment the slopes start to decrease. Explain in terms of forces the changes in the motion which occur from a parachutist as when the parachutists leave the hot air balloon until point A. So we have to explain the motion of the parachutist, how we explain the motion of the parachutist in the second point. So initially what will happen? The moment he jumps, the weight or the gravitational force is there that is acting on him. And that weight will cause downward acceleration. And because he's accelerating downwards, as a result, what will happen? The air resistance will increase. And eventually what will happen? The air resistance will balance with the weight and he will have a constant or a terminal velocity and he will have 0 acceleration or no change in the speed. So what are the points you will mention as till point A we have to explain? So for the first part, when we'll mention the weight is acting on the skydiver or a parachutist. That is the first point. What about the second point? What will happen? He will accelerate downward, or you can also say the speed will increase. As a result, when the speed increase, what will happen? The air resistance, because air resistance depends on the speed at which the object is moving through the air. If an object is moving at a higher speed, it will experience greater air resistance. So the air resistance increase and which oppose the motion, So as a result, what will happen? The resultant force, because air resistance is opposite to the direction of the weight. So as a result, what will happen? The resultant force will decrease. And when the resultant force decrease, eventually what will happen? The weight balanced with the air resistance and when a weight is balanced with the air resistance, the skydiver will fall with a constant speed or no acceleration. And that constant speed is known as terminal speed. So this is always the case whenever objects are falling with air resistance. First thing what happened, this is a structured answer. You have to learn this answer. You have to learn this answer. The first thing, the weight is acting on the skydiver or the gravitational force is acting on him. As a result of a gravitational force, he will accelerate. Then what happened? As he accelerates, his speed will increase, and the increase in the speed will cause the air resistance to increase as well. Air resistance opposes the motion, and the resultant force on the skydiver will decrease. When the resultant force decreases, the acceleration will also decrease, and eventually what happened? The weight balanced with the air resistance, and he will fall at a constant speed with no acceleration. That is also known as the terminal speed or terminal velocity. So this is a structured answer. Whenever objects are falling through air, you will always use this answer. The next question 2. An object fall towards the surface of the earth. The object is falling at its terminal velocity. So whenever object is moving at a terminal velocity, or we also say constant velocity, so it has no acceleration. The acceleration is 0. So whenever object is moving or falling at a constant speed with no acceleration, what happened? The weight balanced with the air resistance, or we can also say there is no resultant force. So there is air resistance and the acceleration of an object is 0. Like object does not have any acceleration. Why A is not the right option? As you can see, there is air resistance. That's true. The acceleration of an object is negative. That's wrong, because whenever object move at a constant speed or a terminal speed, there is no acceleration. In option C, there is no air resistance and the acceleration of an object is negative. That's wrong. When objects are falling towards the Earth's surface, Earth is having atmosphere, and that atmosphere will affect the air resistance. And there is no air resistance. Again, that is wrong. Even though acceleration is 0 is correct, but there is no air resistance is incorrect, because whenever objects are falling towards the Earth atmosphere exert force opposing the motion, and that is called air resistance. That's why B is the right answer.